Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar today. 7 reasons why automation is the best practice for SAP changes. Today, we're going to go through, I can click the slide here. Today, we're going to go through and discuss a little bit about REALTECH, who we are, and our products and solutions. Then we're going to tell you the 7 reasons why automation is the best practice for SAP changes. Then we'll show you a little bit about our Smart Change solution, and then open it up to QA and show you our contact information. So reason number 1, basically automation eliminates manual process gaps and all teams perform changes in the same way. When you're doing a manual process, steps can be missed. Manual processes rely on multiple applications, such as emails, SharePoint sites, approvals outside of the tool, and then audits become very complex and time-consuming. Another reason is really resource strain. There's many people involved with a manual process, from developers, testers, approvers, and then after all that is done, you still have to wait for basis to actually push the transports into the system. So reason number one why automation is the best practice for SAP changes is that our Smart Change solution, you can create workflows that match your manual processes that you're doing today, and you can streamline these to eliminate careless mistakes. And it improves auditing, which we'll talk a little bit more about later in the session. Reason number 2 is that automated proactive checking is missed with manual processes. So if you're doing a manual process, there really is no way to proactively check for overtakers or collisions without looking at a spreadsheet, keeping track of the transports that development tells you to put into the system. So without that capability, there is rework that will happen, right? So you're going to put in a version 2 ahead of a version 1 in the quality or in the production, and you're going to miss something. And that's where the developer will then have to go do the rework in development, release another transport, have it go up through quality and into production. So the second reason is really there's no critical object checking. So you may have some important objects or tables or namespaces that you do not want to be moved into quality or into production. Without a solution and doing it manually, technically you could bring down your production system if something was moved into quality and into production with your manual process. Without automation and proactive technical checking. So reason number 2, the bottom line is that our solution allows you to create dependencies, manage collisions and overtaker situations ahead of time, before they go into quality and before they go into production, and even manage critical objects that we have a special table where you put those objects in a table and the tool will either set it to a warning or an error, and you choose as they're moving through your environments. So with Smart Change, we have certain proactive technical features that allow you to protect your quality system, protect production, be notified at the right time that there is a version 2 going in ahead of a version 1 into the system, and you're able to make those decisions before the import happens, which allows you to not have to do the rework or bring down a system or cause devastation to your quality or production system. So reason number 3, it speeds up testing processes and eliminates manual intervention. So with a manual process, a developer releases a transport, a tester then, releases the transport, it goes into the quality system, it gets imported by the basis team, and then the tester is notified via email, either by basis or the developer, that the transport went into the QA system. After the tester completes testing, then they send another email back, more manual, to developer, notifying the results or attaching the results to some SharePoint. If the tester finds issues, then the developer has to release another fix and send another email back to testing to retest both changes. Once the tester completes the successful test, he notifies the developer and the approvers manually via emails. So with a solution like ours, Smart Change, the developer only has to release the transport. The tool automatically imports it into quality and sends an email automatically back to the developer and even to the tester that it is now in QA and is ready for testing. So once successful, the tester then can come back into a central location, which is our solution, on the solution manager system or any system, wherever the controller lives, and then attach the testing successful documentation inside of Smart Change, and then trigger the final emails to the final approvals within our solution. So what we're eliminating is all the back and forth of emails and contacting developers, testers, approvers. With our solution, a developer releases it, the tool handles 95% of the way into quality and the automatic emails, and then the tester can just come in after they're done and trigger the final approvals within our solution. And I'll show you this during the demonstration. So reason number 4, it really helps audits be more efficient. With a manual process, audits are very labor intensive, right? So an auditor comes into an SAP shop and says, I want to see these 10 transports or changes that went into production. I want to know who approved it, their return code. I want to make sure the developer didn't release and approve into production, and has certain criteria that they want to be followed along the way. Internal audits, also external audits. With our solution, basically, since the tool knows about every transport or change that is moving through the environment, once it's created in the development system, into QA and into production, we keep track of all that information in one central location. So you can imagine you have solution manager connected to 10 different landscapes. All 10 of those landscapes transports are tracked from one central location, and an audit takes less than 5 or 10 minutes because you take those transport numbers, put it into our Smart Change solution feature called request lifecycle, and in request lifecycle, you can get the full report. So import history, who did what all along the way from dev to quality to production within our tool. The return code, any objects that are attached, any attributes, which are additional information that is stored within our transport management tool. And that's all from one location, which could be solution manager or developer. So I think one of the biggest advantages of using an automated solution, is, especially for audits, is that automation is the key, right? If you're doing it manually, it's hours of work for basis to go into the logs and figure out the transport logs, pull it into a Word doc, get all that information, collect all that information. A quick story about one of our clients is that they had a very manual process where they would basically get physical signatures from the manager and walk them back and forth to the different cubicles and put it inside a bin outside of the basis team's cubicle box. And basis would have to get up throughout the day, check this box, and then push the transports into the system. Well, after they implemented our Smart Change solution, Their audits went from a half a day to 3/4 of a day to about 10 minutes because they were able to pull that information up very quickly. So reason number 5, integration with automation eliminates errors. So manual processes really rely on a lot of disjointed applications. You may have ServiceNow, you may have BMC Remedy, you may have HP Quality Center. You might have Tricentis as a testing tool. They're all not connected. They're all different. You have to go into each one. You may have to open the ticket in ServiceNow or BMC, but then go test it in HPQC. Then Basis may have to import it through STMS, SAP. You know, they're all different applications, all disjointed. So with Smart Change, you have the capability with web services or APIs to really create parent-child relationships between all these applications. So in an ideal world, everything would be automated from not the release of a transport, but it goes into quality automatically. It then triggers after the import happens, it triggers something in the testing tool to go ahead and test that transport and make sure it's good. Then it somehow sends something back to its solution like Smart Change and says, testing was successful. Then it triggers an email automatically to the final approvers. So my vision of an automation, fully automated SAP change and transport process is that everything is automated from the release up until the final approvals before it gets into production. With our solution, we have web services and APIs that you can connect these different applications to. And with the use of some basic SAP user exits, you can program them so that everything that I just spoke about is possible. So that's reason number 5, why automation and integration really eliminates errors during the manual processes. If you have a manual process, you have to go into all these applications, do all the separate steps, versus if everything's integrated and it's automated, it's more streamlined and eliminates human error. Reason number 6, dependency checking within transports. So in a manual process, there really is no way to check and see if there are objects that are in different transports that your transport relies on. So let's say you have a table, a domain, and they rely on each other. If that table goes in before the domain goes in, you're going to fail. You have to have the package or the domain in there. Then the table can go in. So basically, object dependencies are common issues, which cause rework for developers, because then they have to go create something, or Basis didn't import it into the right order, and then it failed, and there's just no way of tracking this other than a spreadsheet or emails, or let's say you have an offshore team that basically forgot to send the email to Basis to put it in a certain way or sequence into the system. That's all human error, right? Well, with our solution, we have a feature called return code forecasting. And that feature is where you can check ahead of time that there are object dependencies within transports. You can highlight multiple transports and check ahead of time if there will be a successful return code before it goes into QA and production systems. So it really eliminates that step of, let's try this, let's try that, let's try another one. You can go into the tool, we track and are very granular down to the object level. So you can see the objects within the transports and even see what is missing and what transport that dependency is in before it goes into the systems. And reason number 7, it completely, a manual process involves Basis very heavily, right? They're really focused on pushing the transports in multiple times a day to QA, or 8 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night on a Thursday, off hours. when they really should be focused on making sure the systems are optimized, making sure their database is optimized and running successfully, troubleshooting other more important, let's say, problems within SAP to help the business run more efficiently. So reason number 7, basically manual processes basically involve basis heavily. With our solution, it really takes basis out of doing these menial tasks of pushing transports in, right? We have an automated job that runs in the QA and the production system that will automatically push the transports in on the time and date that we set up the job. And then basis is really only involved when there's an issue, where there's a return code 8 or 12, whatever we set that setting to within our solution. And basis can really focus on other tasks that are more important to optimize the SAP landscapes. So with that, they're the 7 reasons. I keep talking about smart change. What is it, right? So smart change is our transport management module, independent of SAP system or release. I say 7.0, NetWeaver 7.0 or above, no additional hardware needed. We have some approval workflows that are, our workflows, very easy and flexible to create what you're doing today within our solution. Out of the box reporting, like I mentioned for audits, it's a couple clicks and you get everything that for an audit standpoint within 2 clicks or 3 clicks in our solution. Easily installed and configured, just a couple transports into the systems. We run a report, it creates our own RFC and user. We don't rip out or replace anything you have today. We're a bolt-on inside of SAP. We talked a little bit about the proactive technical checks, but we have customers that are using our solution for 2 landscapes. And we have other customers who have 79, 80 systems that are using our solution. Been around since 1994, solid, stable, lives inside its own namespace. So very little issues from a support standpoint. Once it's in, it just runs. It's what we hear from our customers. And then easy third-party integration. I talked a little bit about that. Some of the other features within the solution, return code forecasting, talked a little bit about packages or bundling of transports. So let's say you have an Asia Pacific project that has 500 transports. You only want 1 approval for that. You create what we call a package for Asia Pacific project. All those transports get released into that project, which is a REALTECH project, not an SAP project. And then 1 approval will push it all into quality. A final approval goes into production. Cross-system object locking for N+1 environments. Dependency options. Developers can go ahead and create a dependency between 1 transport or multiple transports, successor, predecessor, companion relationships. TM attributes, that's additional information within our solution. So additional text, maybe you want a yes/no question. Was testing completed successfully? You can set it so yes or no. Any links, so you can have links to SharePoint, HPQC, ServiceNow, BMC Remedy, whatever your ITSM tool is. It's very easy to do I call it a soft integration within our solution. Repeating imports, rejecting or revoking transports, tracking information down to the object level. And then we have a feature called proposals, where maybe you wanted to schedule a time outside your normal window of an import, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. You can set up that special job and it'll push, the tool will push the changes in at the time that you desire, in the off hours or maybe in the middle of the night. So with that, I'm just going to do sort of an end-to-end demonstration of the solution, and then we'll open it up to any questions or just take the next steps. So with that, here, let me just scroll, get rid of this. Okay, I'm hoping you can see my SAP screen. I think you can. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and create a transport. Doesn't have any objects in it. And when I go ahead and save that, standard SAP is still in play. When I release the task, nothing happens. But when I go ahead and release the transport request, here is where Smart Change comes into play. So you have what we call the Transport Manager body pop-up, and then you have respective projects and destinations. These can be freely nameable, right? Some customers are using Charm and they're replacing that. We go ahead and create sort of a project called SAP Changes, normal change, urgent change, or maybe you just have an ECC basis project and the path is dev QA production. This is the destination. So I'm going to use that for the demonstration purpose. And I want to release the transport into our tool. So I hit the add to TM button. It says, do you want to assign it? I say yes. Standard SAP takes over, releases the transport into our controller system, which is on my EDV system, the same system I released from. In this example, an email pops up because I'm an approver. I got an email that my technical approval is requested into quality. The next step is I'll go back to, I'll go to my transaction, or I can go to the favorite, but we have our own transaction, /n/RTC/TM. Here's our main screen. One thing I forgot to mention is that we're fully certified by SAP for SAP S/4HANA. So if you had any doubts about our solution working with S/4HANA, already certified by SAP, fully compatible with HANA changes. So from the main screen, I'll go into the monitor button. Once I'm in the monitor, here's our dashboard. And you can see on the left side, we have what we call transport levels, quality and production. We work from the top down. And on the right side, we have all our transports. So when I release that transport, I know it went into signature because it sent me an email. And here's the transport. What I'm going to do is just go ahead and approve it. Once I approve it, it drops down to the current section. Current is basically waiting for an import to happen. So an automatic job can push it into the system, or I can go in and generate the queue as a basis person, which I'll do for this example. When I generate the queue, it's essentially adding it to the buffer. And now I can hit the truck manually to push it into the system. So now it's being imported into QA. Again, we have an automated job that gets set up in SM37 on the target system that does this, but for demo purposes, I'm just pushing it through. Okay, it's been imported into the system. One thing I like to show is the emails that were sent. So here is the example of the approval email that got sent when I released the transport and it hit the signature stage. And here is the import information email that tells me all the information after it got imported. So it went into client 001, it had return code 000, date and time, any TP errors, everything was good. What we do is we configure the Scott transaction, and this gets pushed out to your Outlook Office 365, so you get it right in your mailbox. So now it's been imported into quality. It's being tested. The next step is really it'll move down to this queue status, but I'll just move it down manually here. But automatically there's a job that moves it down the queue, which is here. Once it's in queue, so it's being tested, it's not quite ready for the final approvals. So when it moves from queue to signature, it triggers emails to the final approvers for production. So I just want to double click on it and show a little bit more information. So here, if you double click, you can go look at the action log, exactly what happened so far, date and time with this request. You can see the object list. This is all from a central dashboard. If this had any objects, it would be here. You can go ahead and see the approvals, who made the approvals, who it's waiting for the final approvals. So into production, I have a content and a technical approval, but only in quality, I had a single approval. Also, we have customers that when they release, it bypasses the approval for quality, goes right into current, and gets pushed into the system, because some companies say the release by the developer is the approval into quality. So import information, you can see all the information. It went into EQA, date and time, return code. And then last thing I'd like to show is the attributes. Here is where you can see some more information if you wanted to attach something or have links or have tester names in here. This is where it would go underneath the TM attributes section. So let's say this was tested, everything was good, successful. Now you're going to go ahead as a tester and do a next status, which will trigger emails to the final approvers. It's now in the signature screen. And I'm the first approver. I got an email, so I'll go ahead and approve. Okay, I approved it. Now it triggered an email. Let me just show. Triggers an email to the final approver, which is the technical approver. In my example, I'm an administrator, so I can do all of this, but we come with one security object that's very easy to separate and control segregation of duties. Okay, so it's been approved. Now it's down in the current section, and it's waiting to be imported into production. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same steps in the quality. Again, we would have a weekly, monthly job, whatever your organization imports into production. We can set it up the same way. Okay. What we see is a lot of clients and customers, the first couple of months of using the tool, basis is getting used to it. So they're doing it this way. They're pushing it into the system manually. But then after they gain some confidence and understand how it works, they go ahead and they go into our scheduler, which I'll show that. Go into our scheduler and go ahead and set up the jobs themselves. So here you're able to set up jobs from a controller system that set up SM37 jobs within the target systems. So if I want to go ahead and now show a quick report, what I can do is go into here, request lifecycle. I don't know why it's so small on here. But basically, you see everything, right? It's a little small, but you get the action log, you get the information about the request data. Bigger this way. You get any list SAP attributes. Down the bottom, you would have the TM attributes if you had additional information. So what I showed you there was basically a simple release from development, how it gets into QA, how it gets into production. And emails are triggered. Everything's automated about 95% of the way. So that's really what I wanted to show today for the webinar. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask. I really appreciate your time coming to the webinar today, and we'll be sending this out and sharing the link to the demonstration and the webinar, and really appreciate your time. So thank you for coming, and we'll be following up with you shortly.